Hello everyone and welcome to Helix Cloud Games. My name is Richie and this is CloudQuest, a cloud gaming show where we take a deep dive into one particular topic. This week we're talking about Amazon potentially shuttering Luna, and joining me in this quest is none other than Mr. Chris.
Hello gamers, happy to be here.
Happy to have you here. But before we get into it, make sure if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you know when all of our great shows go live, such as Talking the PS. Every single Tuesday we break down the PlayStation news happening in the clouds. XPass every single Monday we break down the green side of gaming, and our first looks in the live streams, where actually I think we did a celebration stream to celebrate the birthday of Google Stadia despite it's coming to an end.
You were going to say to celebrate the end of
I did. I was about to say to celebrate the end of Google Stadia, but we might do a stream in next year.
Yeah.
So, Chris, there's a bit of a trend going on in the tech industry at the moment where everyone's decided to fire everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And Amazon seems to be no exception. And it seems to be they're starting the job cuts with the Alexa and Luna Cloud Gaming divisions.
Yeah, like big worrying stuff. Yeah, who'd have thought all of these companies that make millions upon millions of dollars, euros, pounds,
some of them billions,
can't afford to keep employees employed. I saw it happen. I mean, it happens not in just the tech industry, but the wider world. I think like Disney laid off loads of theirs. It's like you literally rake in billions and billions through movie, TV, theme parks, and yet you can't afford to keep your staff on through tough times.
Yeah. It's just a weird trend. We're not going to go too much into like everything that's going on in the tech industry here. I want us to focus on just Amazon Luna for this show.
Mm-hmm.
But it is worth mentioning that this is part of the backdrop. But it seems to be like literally this November, like end of October, practically every single big tech company under the sun, from like everything from Groupon to Snapchat to Netflix to Shopify, Amazon, Google, Twitter. I mean, Twitter's its own unique thing. Meta,
they laid off 90%, right?
Everyone's firing, like literally in the case of Meta, 11,000 staff.
Crazy. I had a staff member for every dollar I made. Yeah, but obviously our big focus is on Amazon Luna. We don't get to talk about Amazon Luna that much on our channel because naturally, still to this day, November 2022, they haven't rolled out beyond the United States yet, to the chagrin of many Europeans and people around the world. I think we were expecting maybe something to have happened throughout 2022, and here we are. I think it's safe to say, without any surprise, I can't see them launching this year now. I think we're kind of in the back end where Christmas, Black Friday, it would be an odd time to launch a product so late in the year. So you would imagine some point early next year, but then I feel like we've been saying this forever as people who haven't had the ability to get our hands on with the controller and the platform and the service, and just had to rely on our friends stateside to kind of fill us in on how it runs and how good it is. It's kind of seemed to have came and went, and I fear a little bit for Amazon Luna because of everything that's happened to Stadia. And obviously the title of the show is Luna destined to follow in Stadia's footsteps? And I think it could possibly do, and I think these layoffs, they don't add any credibility to the Amazon's belief in the service, and I think we probably should get into that a little bit more.
Yeah, it's weird because Amazon seemed to actually back Luna a lot more than Google backed Stadia, which when we were purely focusing on Stadia was kind of annoying a bit. It's like, come on Google, look what Amazon doing, do that, and Google, you're also worldwide. Amazon seemed to be focused at the moment entirely on the US. I mean, we are kind of expected when Amazon Luna came out of beta, that would be when the worldwide launch would happen, because that kind of would make sense. Okay, we're all going to focus on the US for now. Once we're out of beta, then we're going to push it worldwide. That never happened. And, well, as you mentioned, Amazon launching Luna worldwide seems very unlikely when they've just cut 10,000 employees. Not all from Luna, but Luna and Amazon Alexa are the biggest things that are getting hit by this.
Absolutely. In terms of it, so obviously job layoffs, the shit all around across the board. Like if you're someone impacted by that, yeah, it's a big hit, and I think everyone at some point in their life probably goes through or knows people who go through job layoffs. But it always just comes as such a surprise when it's companies that they seemingly make so much money hand over fist. You wonder what benefit is making these cuts. Like sometimes middle management and stuff, I understand, kind of just becomes irrelevant as companies evolve and change. But to say that people on the Amazon Luna team are impacted, like surely there aren't many jobs there that don't require input because it hasn't even launched yet. So surely you should be building a team and growing a team rather than making cuts and reducing a team. That seems like a backward step for something that hasn't even publicly launched worldwide yet.
Well, actually, on that comment, I have seen some discussions about the layoffs in the tech industry where saying, you mentioned middle managers, actually a lot of middle and junior managers often try to hire people in like a continuous thing to just actually justify their position in the company, because the more people they have under their banner in terms of who they're managing, the more important on paper they seem to be, where actually there's probably a lot of redundancy in the hiring, which is one of the criticisms, like why they're suddenly like, okay, we need to lay off people because when we're consolidating here and suddenly we've got lots of people who are not that busy. Potentially, I don't know, I don't work for a big tech company, but this is just like an argument that I've heard discussed, that often is like, a lot of hires in big tech companies are done by middle managers to justify their own position within the company.
Mm-hmm. In terms of the bigger picture, I guess, because it hasn't launched outside of the United States yet, and then with this news coming, it does kind of hark back and have echoes of what kind of happened at Stadia. Although they didn't do layoffs necessarily, a lot of people within the Stadia team started to leave, if you remember, before the demise was announced. Is you had like leadership initially started jumping ship. Obviously they closed their own internal studio, so that was the kind of big red flag, which made I'm sure a lot of people jump ship and think about that. But then we saw kind of like just people on Twitter say, I'm no longer work there, I've left, and
take up a different position within
take
Google,
a different position, so
which is, from what I understand, quite a common thing to happen within Google.
I mean, again, companies full stop. If they announce redundancies, for example, it's in everyone's best interest for them to relocate those people elsewhere in the business, because then you don't have to lay anyone off. You don't have to do severance packages. They just have to change their job description, I guess, to some degree. So that's the best thing for all parties in some cases. But in terms of just, I think, the image, we've seen advertisements for Amazon Luna. They've done their sponsor streams. They've reached out to content creators. They've been a lot better with their community. But again, I must say, for somebody, and we've said it time and time again on multiple shows, as people who are looking from the outside in, who don't have access to this platform yet, I don't hear many people talking about it. And I follow all of like the Amazon Luna pages and news websites, but there just doesn't seem to be any news, bar when they put out like one or two new games. And I think that comes part and parcel with not being publicly out worldwide. Obviously, if you are limited. However, it is limited to one of the biggest populations on the planet in the United States. I can't believe the population of the USA, there are not more content creators. There are not more people popping up with news websites, sourcing. Like, we look at the success that the guys over at Stadia Source had. I feel like there should be more people talking about it and such, and I don't know if Amazon are maybe looking at the lay of the land and what happened to Google Stadia, and they are genuinely assessing, like, is this worth our investment right now, or could we better put our money elsewhere? Because obviously they're looking at the finances, and if they're happy to lay tens of thousands of employees off, then maybe cutting the cord early on Luna is also a possibility, which I don't want to see, by the way. I want it to succeed.
Yeah, same. I want Luna. That should be said, right? We do want Luna to succeed. We'd love to see Luna in the US. We even talked in the past about doing a Luna podcast. Mm-hmm. We started working on that, but that on the run up to it coming out of beta, we were starting to work on developing that show. Then obviously it never happened. But I think that one of the things that could be like to Luna's detriment is something that like it seems to be a US centered problem, like data caps, because it's cloud only. If people in the US like struggling with the internet services have to pay like per megabyte, gigabyte or whatever of data in terms of how much they use, something like Luna then becomes more of an expensive proposition than over here. Because over here, our home internet, we pay for speed rather than capacity. So I pay for 200 megabit per second internet, and that is what I will receive, and I can use as much of it as I like. That's just how it works over here, and in most of Europe, from what I understand as well. That data cap thing is kind of like, if you were in America, imagine like it's more like how phone data over here works, where my data on my phone, I pay for the amount of data. And rather than going to specific speeds, whether it's 50 or 100 or 200 or gigabit, you tend to go, it's like, okay, 4G or 5G nowadays. That kind of be the only real two tiers. So I wonder if that is like put a lot of people off. It's like, well, if to get Luna working, I have to increase the amount of data, and by that point, I might as well just buy a console.
Yeah, and that's cloud gaming in a nutshell. It always was going to have this uphill battle with getting away from physical hardware, and we saw it with Stadia. We see it with every cloud gaming, Nvidia, GeForce Now, and stuff, and even Xbox cloud gaming. Even just yesterday, I saw the PlayStation Plus posted out the Ratchet and Clank collection that's gone up this week. And all the comments were just, let me download them. I don't want to stream them. I don't want to stream them. Like, all the comments were just about wanting that physical download. And I think that's the big thing with Stadia closing down. For all of the criticism that Stadia, Luna, and just cloud gaming in general has gotten, it can't be said that it's elevated and pushed cloud gaming into the conversation more than it probably ever would have had. Because we know PlayStation, Sony don't seem that arsed with it. Nintendo, clearly, they're just doing their own thing. Microsoft are the most in, but I do feel like Google and Luna both launching these products, it's drove the cloud gaming industry to not only be worth more, but be a key relevant part of the future conversation. And with Stadia going, I genuinely think it's as much as Luna probably thought, yes, that's one of our competition that's down, I think it's actually had a bigger impact on probably Luna than they would ever realised, and I think it's a negative impact.
Well, we've both had conversations privately about cloud gaming, and we kind of feel like since Stadia has gone, cloud gaming, there isn't this one ubiquitous cloud gaming platform where it is just cloud, but you can just buy a la carte or use subscription services.
Yes, absolutely.
One of the downside of Luna is just it's subscription service only, which make of that as you will. That's one of them. I think you just have to make your own decision on it, but a lot of people prefer to just buy games individually. I think Luna suffers from a similar thing that Stadia did, where there's no guarantee of games coming as well. But
yeah,
and I wonder if cloud gaming in general has been hurt by like Sony and by Nintendo's like very lackluster approach in terms of the performance. Because on even Game Pass, xCloud is fine, but Stadia's the quality of your performance in Stadia was better significantly.
And I've heard everyone as well who said Stadia and Luna are very comparable in terms of the stream quality, because they're both designed on a similar kind of framework of your controller links directly into the server, it's streamed, and it doesn't have the rest of the infrastructure that Xbox and PlayStation and Nintendo have to deal with. It purely stands alone as its own platform, designed from the ground up to be cloud streamed. Whereas the rest of them, it's all kind of like tacked on, and it's trying to run through multiple layouts and ecosystems to just make it seem seamless. Whereas Stadia and Luna, they just existed as Stadia and Luna, not complements to an already existing thing.
In terms of the stream you're receiving with Stadia, and from what I've heard with Luna, there's less artifacts, there's less noise, there's less input lag. It is a better cloud gaming experience, but these are probably the more niche things that people experience, where there's more people play PS Now than Stadia.
Yeah.
Put it that way. So, and PS Now is garbage. Like,
in comparison,
I think it's a bit better now. It's incorporated in PS Plus, but not much.
Yeah, the accessibility is easier because it's incorporated, but the actual, like, the functioning of it is still not up to scratch of what you and me and a lot of our audience have been just comfortable with for 3 years now. Like, that's the crazy thing, is we've had like quality streaming tech for 3 years, and yet the people who have the bigger chunk of territory in this market are not the best, which is, in any other business, usually the best raises to the top. And because cloud gaming and the gaming industry as a whole is so like locked into these existing ecosystems, I think that mold is just so much harder to break. And I think Luna, now Stadia's gone, yes, it was one of their competition, but I think together the two of them did champion what could be cloud gaming. And I think now one of them's gone, one of them's fell. I do think it undermines a lot of Luna's marketing because people just look at it and go, oh, they're just going to be another Stadia.
There is that argument. The argument I was building to is that have people had lackluster experience early days of cloud gaming with PS Now and Game Pass and whatever Nintendo are doing, and then take that poor experience and just translate it onto Amazon Luna and Google Stadia, where it's like, no, these are a class ahead in terms of the quality. These are genuine good. You mentioned PS, people wanting to download the PlayStation games. It's like, well, if that was on Luna, you wouldn't even be thinking about downloading them because the experience would be good enough.
Yep.
Especially for an older titles, which is we're mainly talking about PS3 era games. You're not going to notice the difference realistically on Luna or Stadia. On PlayStation Plus, you will, because it's not as good.
Yeah. And we mentioned the games as well, like the lack of the library. Like Luna had some great things over Stadia in terms of like some of the Resident Evil games and some of the titles, but at the same time, and then at the same time they were missing a lot of games. Like yes, they got the Ubisoft ones, but they weren't getting the Saints Rows or the Cyberpunks or FIFA in between. So they were missing a lot as well. And I think it's always going to be the games, and that's what has to change. But to kind of take a step off the kind of tech side of things, my biggest concern with Luna, I've brought it up many times on the show, Richie, you'll know because I keep going back to it, their social presence. Amazon Luna has been out since 2020 now, like in beta and such. And Twitter, as much as take Twitter for granted because we know that's a shit show in its own right at the moment, Amazon Luna, only 22,000 followers. And the population of the United States, where it is currently live and active to purchase and play as a consumer product, 331 million population. And you've got a social following on one of the biggest platforms of 22,000. There's something not right there with that. That really it makes me just wonder, like, how big is their footprint and does anyone really care? And again, to put it into perspective, Stadia, which is a dead platform come January the 18th, at the time of recording, 257,000 to 22. And I think there's something to be said in there about your visual social footprint. That something's just missing. And then now with the layoffs and the time it's taking for them to get it out and the lack of games and the cloud gaming consensus from the wider industry and consumer market as a whole, it just has me worried. That cloud gaming it's gone through its second phase. We had OnLive back in the day. We've had Luna and Stadia now. Is it destined, Luna and cloud gaming in general, to just fizzle away for another decade or two and then it'll come back in like 2040 or something?
If I'm being very cynical and pessimistic here,
do it.
I think cloud gaming is still the future, 100%. As long as Microsoft are interested in cloud gaming, I think it will eventually happen. The death of Stadia and what feels a bit like the imminent death of potentially of Luna, or at least deprioritization of Luna, could lead to a big delay in that shift. Because PlayStation aren't going to push it forward, Nintendo aren't going to push it forward, so there's only GeForce Now and Xbox in the mix.
And you mentioned it there, but Microsoft literally came up this week. Phil Spencer did an interview with The Verge and said the reason for them getting rid of the streaming console was the price, and they've put that on hiatus for now. So that's Microsoft with no push from Stadia, no push from Luna. Microsoft were the biggest one because they had the games, they had the library and the legacy. They seemingly aren't in any rush to get this stuff out anymore. No. It does feel like the whole cloud gaming industry is just kind of came to like this big halt at the end of 2022 where it's just, I don't know.
There's something you mentioned earlier about the big gaming journalists, like the IGNs, GameSpots of the world, kind of, when they've done sponsored streams, they've always been in praise of Luna. They've even been in praise of Stadia when they've done it. But as soon as that money's gone off the table, there's nothing. It just seems like that entire gaming journalist industry has zero interest in cloud gaming, apart from when they're getting paid to have an interest in it. Maybe that's a bit harsh, and I'm sure there's people working in there that do, but you never see, and I mean, every single week we're digging through things like IGN stuff, looking for stuff on Stadia, looking for not Stadia anymore, looking for Xbox and PlayStation news at the moment, and I never see anything about cloud gaming. No. It's very rare, unless there's a big news item. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an IGN article in the next few days talking about potentially these layoffs that we're talking about right now, but it's not a high priority for them.
It doesn't get clicks.
Yeah, it doesn't get clicks, and I wonder if that has led to the kind of disinterest, especially in Luna. You mentioned social media presence. If it only gets talked about when Amazon are putting money to get it talked about, where Stadia always felt a bit different.
Yeah, I mean,
Stadia, when it was launched and announced, it felt like this could be a game changer. I think the early things like getting it out there, like before they labeled what it was, to people to beta test it as this Project Stream, and then they announced it. There was a lot of interest from the industry early days.
Yeah,
obviously, I think Stadia's botched launch has kind of may have carried over to Luna.
Yeah, I think it'll have more impact than it has, because without them wanting to, Luna will always be compared side by side with Stadia by the nature of it being, one, a big tech company, two, never been in the games industry before. Obviously, they have Twitch and stuff, but you know what I mean.
And then cloud only.
Yeah, and then by association, Stadia closing down, it will make people just go like, okay, fair enough. I'm not going to try it. And more importantly,
kind of upstarts in the gaming industry.
Yeah, and then there is that knock-on effect of, well, realistically, is that everyone who was maybe burnt by Stadia, yes, we got our refunds. Are they going to want to go out and commit to buying a Luna controller and buying a subscription? Because if that then shutters, you ain't probably getting your money back for your Luna Plus subs. So it's almost like, it's almost like, fun enough, Richie, we're both playing through God of War at the moment. Game's obviously key. There's a part in the story, no spoilers, but there's a prophecy in the first game, and it's almost like the prophecy, self-fulfilling prophecy, essentially, that Luna just existing means that it has to fail almost because of the nature of what it's trying to do. And the more they try and do, it just won't get the traction that they really need to kickstart this thing. And I think, as we saw with Stadia and Google, is like, you need to throw so much money at this. And we've praised Luna for doing certain things in the past. They have their own game studios. They're doing things a little bit differently. They've slowed their beta launch. They've rolled out. They do more marketing seemingly. But then on the flip side, if they're making cuts at Amazon and they're getting rid of the jobs, at what point does this come up in a financial review of the company's profits and revenue when they go, this Luna thing, not really working out as we'd hoped? And then at the end of the day, these boards who make these decisions, these shareholders, are they going to commit hundreds of millions to invest in this platform, or is it just doomed to fail?
It might be even that. Yeah, it might be the boards took a decision okay, at the moment, because we're on the verge of what potentially is a global financial meltdown again. Mm-hmm. They might have looked at what we need to do in order to preserve the future of our companies. We need to do some consolidation and superfluous experimental stuff.
Yep.
That's probably the first stuff to go, unfortunately. So this is probably the reason behind these cuts, Amazon's cutting staff on the cloud gaming and Alexa side, because they are probably seen a bit more superfluous rather than their main e-commerce business. And like the web stores and stuff is like, yeah, I do worry for Luna. I think as well the business model of Luna I think is nowhere near as I actually just don't like sub only for gaming. I've always been an advocate of choice as well. While I've really praised Ubisoft and Ubisoft Plus, on Stadia, I like the fact that I could buy the games a la carte as well. So then I could make, as a consumer, I could make that choice.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge thing for consumers, the choice. A lot of people don't want another subscription service. And with Luna, it might not only be one subscription service, it might be 4 or 5.
And that's where the comparisons kind of with Netflix and streaming stopped, don't they? Because as good as Spotify is, as good as Netflix is, you'll always have the option to just go buy a DVD, buy a CD, an album, buy a song a la carte. You don't have to do them only subscription because there's so many different avenues. And there's nothing to say that Luna can't add a la carte purchasable option there down the line. We've seen Microsoft are looking to implement it at some point, probably early next year. So the great thing with everything being online is you can just change your business model on the flip of a coin. So yeah,
I think
that's a thing.
Luna should just bring up a web store. So you can keep your channels, your sub channels as well, but have it just an a la carte option. I think that would drive a bit more interest. Not probably a lot more, but it would be a pro-consumer move. It might make a few headlines, get you back in the mix a bit, talking. Yeah. But for any cloud gaming thing, I think it's going to have to be a long burn. I don't think you're going to break through in the. We've seen with Stadia, you need a concerted effort, not for a year, and then take your foot off the gas for 2 years. Yeah, I think you need a concerted effort, probably for like 5, maybe even 10 years of pushing this product, pushing the virtues of cloud gaming, getting it in people's hands, getting people talking it to break through.
Yeah,
because people are conditioned to buy the box under the TV.
Absolutely, and I think this is the biggest downside to when we've discussed about Stadia in the past, and probably Amazon to some degree, is that the investment. Surely someone sat down and crunched these numbers, but they must have knew it was going to take a 5 to 10 year game plan and hundreds upon hundreds of millions to get this. But if they get it right, they would be the number one in this particular field of the industry. And I think it's a long way to go, but I think like PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo, they could just fumble along and still be number one because they have that legacy that they themselves spent decades curating. Those 3 big players, they've invested so many millions across the last 30 years to be where they are today. So the fact that Google threw in the towel after 3 years is pathetic, quite frankly. And I think Amazon, looking at this, they can't look at a 1 year beta, then a 1 year US rollout, and then third year go, it's not quite for us, it's costing a lot of money. Like, you need to be in this for the long run. If you want to break into the games industry, you need to do what Xbox did when they launched the Xbox. Everyone was like, what the hell is this big chunky thing? Look where they are today. But that didn't come in 3, 4, 5 years. That was decades of investment, time, development, and cost. And I think the big question really is Amazon have the money, do they have the commitment? Because Google didn't.
Even if the execs at Amazon have the commitment, they're still at the beck and call of their shareholders. If Luna's losing the money year on year, the shareholders who, especially those who are not passionate about the company, it's an income for them.
Yep.
We go, why are you spending money on this?
Absolutely.
If you cut that, we'll all be financially better off.
Yeah. Just before we wrap up, to add another one, GeForce Now, 141,000 followers on Twitter.
I actually think they might be the last one standing. You know, traditional consoles aside, like PS Plus and Xbox Cloud Gaming, I think as a cloud gaming service, I think GeForce Now will be the last one standing, because there's similar, actually, in ways to Xbox Cloud Gaming, where I can buy a game on my Xbox. Once I got it up and running, I could buy a game on my Xbox, play on my Series S locally, and then if I'm on the go on my phone, I can jump on and continue exactly where I left off using cloud gaming. You can kind of do the same thing with GeForce Now if you have a gaming PC. So let's say you got a gaming PC at home, but you travel a bit for work or something, so you've just got a business laptop. It doesn't have a GPU or anything. You could use GeForce Now to like play in a hotel, to just literally pick up from where you left off.
Yeah.
So it works quite well as a supplementary tool, and it's a single fee, like monthly fee to access it, which you can just stop when you're not using it. But you're paying for the games on other platforms and other storefronts. So even if GeForce Now goes away, you haven't lost them games.
Yeah.
So I think it's in a lot of people. This is weird, me talking the virtue of the GeForce Now. I'm usually quite cynical about them, but it's like, if you look at what's happened with Stadia, people and Amazon Luna, like, people are genuinely worried about losing the money. And Stadia have done the right thing, give us all our money back.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's what it is. But I guess in a nutshell, we, again, just to reiterate, we want Luna to do well. We've seen 100%. Stadia for 3 years do such good things with the hardware, and I want to get my hands on Luna. I want to see how it goes, and I want to try it out. But I think there's still a lot of work to do, and I hope they understand that and realise that. But yeah, that's my take on it, Richie. I hope it's not doomed to follow Stadia, but at the moment, I think they need to do more to shake that Stadia rust off of them and disassociate themselves with the same roadmap.
I think the biggest move they could do right now, if they want to we are 100% behind Luna, is announce the worldwide launch of it. Because then, if you do that now, it goes, yeah, we are cutting jobs as part of it, consolidation. However, that doesn't change our views on the product going forward. That is just a bit of internal consolidation, a bit of trimming the fat, like a bit of optimization in how we're operating. But we are going forward.
Yeah.
And if they turn around and go, you know what, April 2023 in Europe, in the UK, in wherever else, in Canada, you will be able to get Amazon Luna. That would then, I think, reignite the optimism for the platform.
And hopefully get some more Twitter followers.
Yeah.
Or whatever social media followers you need after Twitter internally explodes.
But that'd have the IGNs talking about it, though. Luna goes worldwide. That's a clickable article right there.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully not long.
Hopefully not long. But that's all we've got time for this week. If you liked the video, hit that like button and consider becoming a member for as little as 99 pence, where you can get early access to this very show. If you've got an idea for a topic you want to discuss, let us know in the comments of the video or in our Discord server. The link is in the description below. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Richie.
Before you leave, though, this very episode, if you want to know how the thumbnail was made for our Helix Heroes, there's a very special video up on the channel right now talking about how I made the thumbnail for this very episode. Bit of a behind-the-scenes peek. So Helix Heroes, you've already probably viewed it and watched it, but thought I'd add that in there because we've spent half an hour talking about it. There's another half an hour video of how we made the thumbnail for it. So there's a whole hour dedicated to this topic. So go check that out.
I'm actually looking forward to watching that myself because I have seen you make thumbnails before, but it's been a while actually.
There's actually a really funny moment for people to go check out where about 6-7 minutes in the video, I totally lose the toolbar on Photoshop, and I've never done it before, and I have to spend 4 or 5 minutes Googling where to find your toolbar to get it back so I can actually complete the video. And I didn't edit out because I thought it's behind the scenes, so it's funny content to get in there. But yeah, totally disappeared, didn't know what I was doing, fumbled around, but again, that's how the sausage is made here at Helix Cloud Games.
3 years in, we still don't know what we're doing. I've been Richie.
Absolutely. I've been Chris.
Quest completed.